Guys, Brad McCraw, CEO, executive producer, MOSAIC Pro Events, here with another episode of the Crew Call Pod. Today we're doing some guest episodes. I've been talking about this. We want to do, the Crew Call Pod is talking to industry leaders about industry things, and there's no greater industry leader than who I've got sitting with me. Two guys, actually. One's with me every day at work. Andrew Knisley, co-owner of MOSAIC Pro Events, is with us. And then from DC Pro, which I'm sure you guys know, is Daniel Connell. So, Daniel, welcome to the podcast, man.
Dude, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here.
It's been fun to watch this develop. Actually, I think I told you I listened to the episode with you and Nick on the flight out here.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Loved that one, man.
Yeah,
so
Nick from IPS is a good dude. That was a fun origin story. We both went to CIY tours, which... If you did you ever do CIY?
Oh, no. Bro, you don't have to say it like that. Like, I've got worse, but I did do CIY.
Yeah. You were probably on tour with, who was the tour? What was your first tour?
I actually can't talk about my first tour.
Okay.
You won't know it. You won't know who it is.
No, who was the famous Christian artist, the guy that I'm thinking of?
Well, that wouldn't have been the first tour.
Grovelly, deep voice.
You talking about Third Day?
Third Day.
Mac Powell? Yeah, I did 4 years with them. That was definitely not the...
but that was probably the same time that I was doing those CIY tours.
2000 to 2004.
No, I think you were probably at Church on the Move when I was doing those CIY tours.
Probably. Yeah, that was, 07 to
But that
15.
that was a fun one. That was CIY all over the country at the most podunk college towns you can name.
I've had so many friends do those tours, which is why that's my reaction of like, oh no, I've heard the stories.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Nicely never got to do one of those. I'm surprised I didn't put you out on one of those in the early days of MOSAIC.
I got offered to go on a tour with them, and it didn't work out for some reason. I don't know.
He did a couple tours. Speaking of tours, we'll stop here for a second. Nicely did we have some great friends. Gosh, I can't think of their names right now. I feel bad.
Simply 3?
Simply 3.
They sound like me.
String. 3 guys that play string instruments. That's kind of a rock thing. Like they do covers. They're pretty awesome. So Nicely got to experience a little bit of a tour. He was the bus driver, the PM, what else? Audio.
A1.
Yeah. Monitor.
I was the only production guy. It was a small tour, but 25 stops across the U.S.
And the van driver.
Yeah.
I won't tell you the name of my first tour, but I was out on it at 18. I did a semester of college and quickly realized that was not for me. Went back to the lighting company I'd been working for through my teens. Told the owner, I was like, I'm not doing college. Put me on the road.
Yep.
He said, no, you need to go to college. And I said, it's not going to happen. Put me on the road. So he went, I got a tour for you. And put me on this one thinking it would push me back into college. The tour wrapped, and I just went back and said, "Okay, what's next?" But it was a gospel tour. Again, nobody here would know the name, but just give you a little bit of frame of reference. The truck was a 24-foot box truck that the sound company owned. It had a little 24-inch sleeper cab in it. That's where I rode.
That was your home?
That was my home.
Your spot.
Yeah, there was a tour bus. It was a 40-seat passenger bus. Was the tour bus?
Yep.
Yeah. The first week of that tour, I got just reamed so much by the local crew, the union crew in Philadelphia, for my country accent. I grew up in Alabama, had a deep, I'm sure people now still think I have a little bit of one from being in Oklahoma. No, I had a solid accent. We did 1 week at this theater, and then we had a week off, and then we were back in this theater. The week off, I learned to speak without an accent because...
Really, you just practiced?
I practiced the entire week. So the next week I roll back in there, and they're like, oh, country boy's back in here. And suddenly I just start throwing out, okay, I need this, I need that over there. And they're like, oh, what happened to you?
That's amazing.
Come on. You're not going to do this to me again.
So how old were you? Let's start there. Let's start origin stories. How old were you on that first tour?
That was 18. Or if you want to go...
This is first official gig in the industry?
No, not at all. That was first tour.
Okay.
So real origin story. I've never worked a job that was not related to lighting or production in some way in my entire life. I'm except for mowing yards. At 14, I started working for a DJ running lights for him. Couldn't drive. He had to come pick me up, and I got paid
14
14 years old. I got paid $40 a night, Friday and Saturday nights. So 14, that would have been 1992, and I was making $80 a weekekend. I was rich.
Yeah, you lived life.
Your hourly day rate was like $5 an hour.
Well, I mean, it was,
That's good pay.
doing the DJ stuff, we'd start setting up at 5.
Yeah.
We'd be out by 10 or 11.
Okay.
I loved it. The
Yeah.
time was great.
Especially at that age.
Oh, heck
So
yeah.
what if 14 made you say, hey, I want to go try to do lights for a DJ?
So let's go real far back then.
Yeah.
And I'll try and tell this fast because this can become a long story. Raised by my dad, wonderful guy, I love him to death. supported me and my sister really well, but he was a police officer in Huntsville, Alabama. He made enough money to where we lived in a good neighborhood, but we were surrounded by not good neighborhoods. My elementary school was great, but he knew if we had to go to the middle school we were zoned for, being a police officer, he knew it well. He knew all the calls he got there. He didn't want us going there. My sister, older sister, has always been very artistic. She got accepted to a special public magnet art school, she'd get bused across town to go there. They let siblings in whether or not you qualified or not, just because they didn't want to split families up.
Interesting.
So suddenly, I'm at this art school. I had no interest in any of that, and it was performing arts, visual arts, all of it. 6th grade, so I started going in 5th. 6th grade, they require you to participate in the school play somehow. Every 6th grader has to do it. I still remember it like it was yesterday. The drama teacher, Debbie Fleischman, was walking around handing out parts to everybody. And she gets to me and almost says apologetically, Daniel, we don't really have another spot for you, because I couldn't sing. I could kind of dance decent. I can't sing. And I had massive stage fright, massive. She goes, so I don't really have another place for you. We're going to have you run lights for the show. So I think I was 6th grade, so it would have been 12 then, I think. Man, duck to water. Like, I remember conversations with her as we were getting set up for that show, and she would tell me to do something like, she had me hooking up the ClearCom. And what she told me is, plug the XLR, of course she didn't call it XLR, plug the mic cable into this box, the base station, and then go run it to all the comm stations and do a loop, and out of the last one, run back to here. And I went, I don't think that's right. She goes, no, it's right. I went, okay. So I set it up her way, and it didn't work.
Not right.
And I said, it's hooked up. She goes, well, it's not working. I went, okay. And just unplugged the cable real quick. She goes, now it's working. I went,
Now there's not a feedback loop.
right. Yeah. So literally, probably 6-7 years ago, they tore that theater down. She shipped me that lighting console.
Are you
It's in my
serious?
office now.
That's
back in
Oh,
Tulsa.
I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah, you showed me
it's
that.
like a coffee table, right?
Yeah, a little 18-channel, 2-scene
Yes.
legal console. So literally, that became my life almost at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed it so much. It was the first thing in my life I'd really been passionate about. I didn't play sports at that age, but just loved it. Kept doing that up through high school. She kind of handed me off to a high school that had a similar program. That drama teacher knew this local DJ, and he came in and went, I need somebody to run lights. You got any kids? And she's like, yep, and pointed them to me. So I did that for a couple years, and then right before
This is wedding DJ stuff?
weddings,
Club DJ?
bar mitzvahs,
Okay.
like whatever. Like he rolled around. I'm trying to remember what some of the gear was. I think we had some Serwin Vega subs. You probably don't even know what that is. Yep.
Techno beams? Do you guys have techno beams?
This is pre-Techno Beams.
Wow.
This is pre-track spots, I think.
I feel like that's the first lighting instrumentation I remember is techno beams in my career.
I remember when Techno Beams were released.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I should have brought this out. I didn't think about it for this podcast. I actually found it cleaning out my home office the other day. I still have my high-end systems certification cards from when I was certified to repair Techno Beams and IntelliBeams and Cyberlights in like 96.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got little Daniel on it.
I could actually program a little techno beam controller. That's probably the only lighting experience I have in my career is that little techno beam controller.
LCD
I
controllers.
could do some pretty dope stuff with that techno beam on that little guy.
Man, in the 90s, it was good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, until like the Hog 2 started coming out,
Yeah.
it's like that was the jam.
No, I mean, it was studio spots and studio colors, right?
You talking about what's first?
I'm
or
talking just lighting that I remember. Techno beam, then, I mean, I felt like that was the game changer when studio spots and studio colors came out.
That was a big thing. Now, of course, Verilight was pre that.
Yeah.
I guess it's this point I can talk about this. I actually knew the people that gave high-end systems a Verilight pattern there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, off of.
Okay.
Yeah, now hopefully I'm not, I mean, all those companies have been sold to different places
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Who
So
knows?
unless like Philips sues, who was an ETC that owns high-end now, I think we're all right. But no, that was it. Then you pretty much had Verilight.
Yep.
And then high-end started coming out, and there wasn't a lot else out there.
No, I remember those for years.
Martin wasn't there yet, but when they came out, they were a DJ lighting company. So to your point, high-end started with, I believe IntelliBeams were first, then Cyberlights. Somewhere in there you had track spots, which were like a Technobeam light. Super small, incandescent bulb, like it was a club light. Then you had the studio colors came first,
Okay.
and then the studio spots. And then it just kind of X spots.
Yeah, those were everywhere.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. Yeah.
And this is why you're a gear nerd.
Not anymore.
No, it's
Used to be.
What's funny, I can tell you about all the stuff from 30 years ago.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
come up to me now, like, what do
Nowadays.
you think of this fixture? I'm like,
Yeah, Yep.
We saw
And
a lot
there's
of them.
so many now. I mean, back in that day, there was 10 fixtures. Now it's crazy what's out there now.
What's exciting too, though, is most of it is good.
Yeah.
That people ask me now, they're like, "What's your favorite? What do you think is the best?" I'm like, "What's your application?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
almost
That's
everything
what
is
it
good
depends
for
on.
something.
Yep.
Yep.
You know,
They're not making crappy high-end fixtures anymore.
So let's stay.
No,
Let's just stay in. Let's stay in this origin and career path. So from DJ to tours. So just got a call to go on a tour.
well, there's kind of a gap in there. At 15, I was almost 16. I started working for a company in Huntsville called Theatrical Lighting Systems.
Okay.
For those of y'all that know Four Wall Nashville started when Michael Cannon bought Theatrical Lighting Systems from the owner at that time, David Milley, who was my boss, and I'd grown up working for.
Okay.
That was probably 2012, 2014. I don't remember exactly. I was long gone at that point, but grew up working for this company and started out sweeping floors, emptying trash cans at like 15, 16. And then for those of y'all that remember what gel is for lights, you know,
course.
kids nowadays don't know.
Yeah.
That was all we had back then. So we had, it was either 8 or 12 4-drawer filing cabinets just for gel.
Yep.
One of my jobs was pulling all the gel out of the 120K Parcan rigs, filing it, you know, or re-gelling in your rig when it's time to go, and started working up through there. And then it was, you know, 16, 17, they're starting to use me on local shows. You know, summer between like junior and senior year, I'm going out on regional shows, even doing overnight shows. I think, if I remember right, I think my first out of town regional show was Electric Light Orchestra underneath a bridge in Chattanooga.
No?
Wow.
Funny enough, I was actually listening to Nick's episode with you this morning. I'd forgotten he's originally from Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. That was a little connection there. But
That sounds like a song, Under the Bridge in Chattanooga.
I'm pretty sure it
like
is.
a Western song?
On the
country song?
Well, that'd be an Eastern, but yeah. Yeah, on the Chattahoochee, but that's a different state.
That's a different, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, did that a little bit. Would do weekend shows. Started doing local stuff around through high school as well. And then, graduated high school and gave a brief stint at college. And went out to the University of Texas because I found out they had the best lighting design program in the country. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I went. And I didn't understand college. Nobody in my family had, they'd gone to community college, but nobody went to university.
Yeah.
So I really had no prep of what to be looking for. Yeah, they did have the best lighting design program. When you're a graduate student, undergraduates don't get into lighting design. So I stayed out there a semester. I learned 2 things that I still remember and apply today in a lot of what I do. Paid $14,000 for that.
For those 2 things.
Yeah, $7,000 a piece.
Sounds right.
And came back, and that's when I went back to my boss, David Milley, and went, okay, I'm not built for college. Let's hit the road. And did that one tour, came back, said, give me more. And it was kind of just off to the races from there. Started working with, I know some people listening probably know him, Scott Moore, Go Live Productions out of Nashville. Mentor of mine, just absolute hero. Love that guy. Taught me a lot of what I know about lighting design and touring and the approach to that. And I'm trying to think, the first one I believe I did with him was probably Point of Grace.
Okay.
97 or 98, maybe. Jackie Velasquez, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith. Basically, if it was a popular Christian band between 97 and 2007, I probably worked with them at some point.
Your role on those tours, was it full LED? Were you in charge at that point in your career?
It's really interesting. The first tour I did, I was lighting tech. Every single other tour I've done after that, I was on the console.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. You and I were actually talking about this before the podcast a little bit, just kind of like what the stages of that are for people.
Yep.
And the way I learned is as a programmer. So Scott would design the tour. He would, and I want to get a little granular on this because I think people hear the word design and that can mean so many different things. He would do all the pre-design. What is it going to look like? How's the structure going to work? Build out the plots, do the renderings for the client to sell it to him. And that was his role. And then his business had grown to the point where he couldn't go out with the tours all the time. So he needed somebody to go out and make sure that his vision for the tour, was represented well. So he would bring me in, and the first tour we did, I think he actually did the most of the programming, and I was just kind of watching over his shoulder. In fact, I remember it was the Jackie Velasquez tour. He had me start doing the programming. I have no musical background. I again, in school, the little bit of stuff I did I was a decent dancer. So he's trying, Jackie Velasquez, very Latin, I don't know if salsa is the right word. But
let's just stop right there. Like a decent dancer. Should we dive into that? Are we talking hip hop dance? Are we talking your samba?
This is 30 years ago.
What was your dance specialty? Because I would never call myself a decent dancer no matter what I did. So,
show choir.
show choir dance. Yeah.
We're going to need like a cutout shot of him dancing in the corner.
Well, yeah. Cut to producer Jeff, cut to scene of Daniel dancing.
To see me dancing now, it's going to involve some alcohol, and I quit drinking, so I think those days are over. But he's trying to kind of talk me through rhythm, because at that point we didn't use time code for anything. It was all manual. If you were hitting beats, you were doing them manually. And so he's kind of programmed out one of her songs and puts me on the console to run it back, and I cannot keep rhythm. And so he's starting to kind of like tap his leg behind me, everything. And he goes, okay, what you need to do here is you need to count into it, and just count into the beats and then hit that downbeat. I didn't know what a downbeat was. And so I go through and I go 5, 6, 7, 8. He goes, stop. Are you a dancer or something? I was like, yeah, that's the only thing I've ever done. And he's like, oh, okay. So literally he spent about an hour with me teaching me, like, I don't even know if you'd call it music theory, but the basics of rhythm. And it took me a day or two, but yeah, I learned it. And I learned it's not 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And I never got as good as him. He was a professional drummer before he was an LD, and I'm like, that's just not fair.
Yeah, you have to be musical.
Exactly.
To be good at it. Yeah.
I got good at my part of it. I got good at it from a lighting standpoint. I'm still not a musician at all. But did that tour, kind of went on from there. 2000, I think, is when he put me out on the third day tour, which is when I met Andrew Stone.
Yep.
And that is, kind of just went from there. And I don't know how far we want to go through this, but that's kind of what went for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's what led you into ministry, right?
Eventually got me to Church on the Move.
That's where we met. We met when you were doing Church on the Move. If you've been in ministry for, 10 to 20 years, if you've lived in ministry, Church on the Move, you know that church well. Seeds Conference was like the ultimate. I was from CCV in Phoenix, Arizona, which is another big church. But if you're in the creative world in church, you knew of Seeds Conference. When I was in ministry, you knew of Seeds Conference, you knew what it was, you knew how it was. And our whole creative team would go out to Seeds Conference. And I met you. I don't even know how we ended up connecting. I think because it was two big churches, and it was like, hey, we want to meet your team because your team is big. Yeah. Or probably over Twitter. We met at Seeds Conference, which I loved. Seeds Conference, we've talked about this before. Like, talk about a creative, if you're in the church world, I wish it still existed in some capacity, because for me, it was the ultimate release. It was nice to be a creative production guy that worked at a church, because you never get a chance to worship. You never get a chance to kind of see other churches excel at what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And we were such a big church, CCV, that a lot of the other churches weren't doing production value that we did, music value. So to step into a world where you guys were doing it even better than we were, but to be able to just sit and embrace it and watch it and worship in it was just amazing for that period of my ministry.
It was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be the best thing I ever do.
Yeah.
And because it was, so many people, including me, have said that I wish it was still going. It was for a moment.
Yep.
And it can't be repeated. I know this probably for people that weren't a part of it or didn't see it, they'll probably hear me say this and go, what? It couldn't have been that good. No, it is even in the name. So the reason it started, and Seeds was a conference, but it was also just a program the church did, because Whit George, who's a creative pastor at the time, now the lead pastor there, we had assembled this team that didn't exactly make sense. You had Andrew Stone, who was world-class audio engineer, production manager, had done massive events around the world. Just how is he going to end up at a church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we could do a whole podcast just on that. Andy Chrisman, formerly of For Him, amazing vocalist.
Amazing voice.
Absolutely. The guys that were doing the graphics work for us at the time were not what you would normally find in a church environment. Granted, there are guys at churches now that do lighting that can run circles around me. But at the time, church production wasn't the way it is now. So having someone with 10 years of touring experience at decently high-level shows coming in that church environment, I did bring a bit to the table. And the reason they called it Seeds is Whit said, I feel like we have been blessed with these resources, not to just keep them for ourselves, but to go out and plant that into other churches and to give away what we have.
I love that.
Seeds had a whole blog that we just gave away information for. We'd give away song charts, whatever we could do. And then there was the conference. But the mission of COTM evolved. Some of the people kind of went away a little bit, and it is very bittersweet, but if we try to do it again,
it wouldn't be the same.
It would not be the same.
Yeah. Like you said, there's a season for everything, and it was it was a perfect season. It was a great season for us to go out there and look at it. And you, I mean, in my world as the lead production guy of another big church, obviously we always looked at Church on the Move as the kind of the next step. You guys were on the forefront of creativity. You were on the forefront, obviously, of lighting design. I'm doing all the stage designs at CCV at that point. I'm not a lighting guy at all, so I would steal ideas from you. I'm sure Knisley worked for me at that point at CCV, and I vividly remember going to Seeds, looking at your lighting. At that point, you were doing a little side light, like little par lights for instrumentation, just to kind of add that side angle. I'm sure Knisley remembers too. I came back from Seeds and I was like, hey, guess what we're building this week? And we all had to build. We all had
Dewey lights. That's your fault. Got it.
Exactly.
I was just like, why are we doing this? We don't have a team for this. And he's like, yeah, you're doing it. I was like, oh, great.
I got an email 2 days ago from a guy asking about those. I still get people reach out.
It was such a cool, I mean, you look at it now, and I mean, it was like, for us, it was like Home Depot parts. Like we built the bases,
Oh yeah,
and then just little pars. But the impact on stage was such a cool vibe. Like, so I stole all sorts of ideas, and we talked about it over the years. Like all sorts of ideas, especially from those Seeds conferences, and then obviously your lighting. So, Church on the Move, yeah. So what took you? I know Andrew Stone took you out there, but what was that transition like from touring life to ministry life? I mean, that's a drastic difference when you're a lighting guy to go, do I really want to walk away from tours and go work at a church, especially in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
It's the opposite. Usually it's worship the tour.
Yeah, right. It could be for sure. So yeah, what was that move? Was it just a time in your life? You felt like touring was over? You had a family at that point? What was that big transition?
You know, we got to get a little bit personal for that. So I don't mind going down the rabbit hole, but it definitely strays away from production talk a little bit.
Yeah, which is great. I love that.
You know, I'll leave it this. I went through a major life transition, and I'll just leave it at that. And the road is hard.
Oh yeah.
It's very hard.
Yep.
And, I've been out there for 10 years, and it was, you know, honestly, from a personal side, my life was in shambles. You know, failed relationships, no real foundation in anything. And, you know, when I was out with, good people that I loved and supported me, like Andrew or like Scott, it helped balance that out. But there was a season, like the 2 or 3 years before COTM, when we had quit working with Third Day, and I wasn't doing as much stuff with Andrew, and there was a gap, and I went out with some other groups during that time. I think the last band I toured through with there was Switchfoot, which awesome guys, but it was not a healthy environment for me. And I was looking for stability. And Andrew called me in, let's say, October of 2006. I was still on tour with Switchfoot. I remember standing behind the tour bus, talking on the phone to him, or beside it. And he said, we hadn't really talked for about a year and a half. And he said, hey man, you know, after we kind of caught up for a second, he goes, well, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm at this church in Tulsa now. So again, 2006, church production is not like it is now.
Yeah.
You did not go from touring to church production.
Not a thing.
And I go, yeah, I've heard. And he goes, hold your judgment for a minute. If I'm here, you know, it must be something cool. And I went, oh, I'll give you that. And he goes, we need someone to design a Christmas show for us. Would you be interested in doing it? And I'm thinking, I'm going to go out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm going to wiggle some lights around and blow these church people's minds. And then I'll head back home and go back out on tour in February. I already had a tour booked. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I went out there and kind of with that mindset still. And I'm not proud of that, but that was the mindset I went out with. Of course. And Church on the Move, then, I always want to emphasize this, it's nothing like what we just talked about. The lighting console was a Hog 1000, which even then was way outdated. They had 4 VL 1000s. That's what they owned for moving lights.
Wow.
Period. It had been a TV ministry before, so lots of like par cans and 2Ks and 5Ks and all that. The house lights in the auditorium were 8-foot fluorescents that you had to turn on with a switch beside the lighting console. They hung some par 64s, like not Source 4 bars, like the old school real ones, over the aisles so they could have aisle lights and turn the fluorescents off during worship. Green carpet everywhere, rear projection 4x3 screens over the stage, 19-foot trim height, multiple stair stage. Horrible place to try and do a show.
Yeah.
Got out there and we put together a pretty cool Christmas event. Brought in a neat backdrop from Atomic Design. Rented some more lighting from TMS out of Omaha, Theatrical Media Services. Great company. I've been using them for tours at the time, and did a good show. And out there, I just got to interact with everybody. I got to interact with Whit. And, I won't say I knew Andy, but I had done shows for him, so there was at least a connection. Interfaced with a lot of the other guys that were on the production team at the time, which was like 3 or 4 guys. I really enjoyed my time. My last day there, I'm passing Whit George in the hallway, and had worked close with him through that. And he said, I said, "Hey man, thanks for having me out. I really enjoyed it." He goes, "Dude, we'd love having you out here. You ought to just come work with us full time." I laughed at him. I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
And I just went, "Oh, thanks, man," and walked off. And I went back home. I was living just south of Nashville at the time, and the Holy Spirit would not let go of me about that. And about a week went by, and I finally, what I was feeling was like, "Hey, dude, you've been asking for this. Here it is. You're going to walk through the door, or you're going to go back on tour." And so I called Andrew and I went, "Hey, my last day there, Whit offered me a job. Was he serious?" He goes, "I don't know. I'll find out. Are you serious?" I went, "I think I am, man." And, I'm not going to go into a lot of personal details here, but even through that, I was going through a very difficult life transition. And COTM just welcomed me in so much. And, what you started asking about here was, what was that transition like going from the road? It was horrible. Not because of them, but because of me. I didn't know immediately how to transition into that.
Yeah, it's so drastically different.
So drastically different. In touring production, we just do everything by force. The show starts at 5.
Get it done.
I have a job to do.
Yep.
If you're in my way, look out.
Mm-hmm.
How well does that work at a church?
Yeah.
So my first 2 years maybe there, I didn't, I'll be honest, I don't know that I really knew how. It took a while to get settled into that. But what was so valuable is I'm now hearing a message from Willie George 3 times a weekend.
Yep.
The way God worked in my life through that and turned that, we would not be sitting here today. And I don't mean just because you and I wouldn't have met because of churches.
I'd be a different guy.
I would be a different guy and a guy I don't like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a job. But important detail here I feel like kind of left out. When Andrew called me back and did say yeah, he's serious. Are you serious? Well, I think I am. And I prayed about it because even through, again, I grew up Christian, grew up going to church with my grandmother, but was not living for Christ the way I should be. Absolutely not. Or should have been. Just sitting through Willie George's messages over the 2 or 3 weeks I was out there for Christmas. I actually think I stuck around for an extra week or so after to help them get ready for some conferences they had in January. And so I got to hear several messages, and it really connected with me. And so after talking to Andrew, I prayed, and I went, "Okay, God, I thought this was going to be a career-ending move." And I literally said, "I will trade you my career, but, think everything I just told you about when this started for me. My career was my identity.
Yeah.
It had been since I was 14 years old. That's all I knew. I never did anything else. I will trade you my career for a wife that loves me, a family, and just balance in my life."
Yeah.
Well, God doesn't work that way. He doesn't take from you in that way. So I got all of those things. I met my wife out there. We have 2 beautiful children now. It is because of Church on the Move that DC Pro exists.
Yeah. It's
period.
amazing.
Yep.
I love it.
That's
love
great,
it.
man.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's amazing. It's always those moments. We don't shy away from the spiritual aspect of what we do and how we do it. And we've all had those moments in our careers and our life. And it's sometimes those moments where you're just like, okay, here it is. I'm just gonna walk through this door. And then you're like, well, man, that was 10 years ago. That was the moment that changed everything.
Absolutely.
It doesn't seem like it in that moment, but once you just give up and you're like, okay, here it is. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we have a lot of church production guys and gals that listen to us. And you just described how you got to Church on the Move. So how did you go from that, we'll call it an old school 90s church vibe, to becoming the cutting edge church that would produce seeds when I showed up and saw Church on the Move? Like, what led to that? I'm sure there's a lot of church people that are listening to it and they're thinking, man, my church is like that. Mm-hmm. It's still, even though it's 2025, it still looks like it's from 1996. How do I convince my leadership? Like, what led to that transition? I'm sure, obviously, you and Andrew Stone were huge aspects of that, but how do you transition to church like that?
It is, I know how we did it, and I've seen other people do it other ways, but, this is the way I know, and it is a centralized vision from the top, period. This was not a part of it I was involved with at all, but there was a handful of other churches starting to use production as a creative way to communicate the gospel at that time. Willow Creek Fellowship Church in Dallas, and Whit, being the lead pastor's son, had watched a lot of that stuff, and he was the new generation, and knew that, kind of saw this as this is the direction we need to go to stay. I don't know if relevant's the right word, but be able to connect with a new generation. And so he started building that, and I think one of the first steps in that was hiring Andrew Stone, and then hiring Andy Chrisman, and then hiring me and a lot of other people. So we got all that together, and for probably 2 or 3 years, we just cooked, and it was not pretty. And I've got pictures on hard drives from that period of time, and it's some of the cheesiest stuff you've ever seen in your life. We made a lot of sets out of Coroplast.
Oh, yeah.
There was not a lot of people to follow and pattern after.
Yeah, right.
So we were just trying to figure out, what do we do here? And we were also doing it in a room that was not built for it, which everybody's like, I know what that's like. 2009, they decided they were going to do a lot of a building campaign at the church, and a major part of that was going to be a remodel of the main auditorium. This is something that Andrew Stone just gets absolute credit for, is one of the reasons he did just so well throughout his whole career, but also well there, is if he told you he was going to do it, it got done.
Yeah.
That is Willie George's love language. When he found people around him he could trust and go, if he says, I need it this way, that it'll be that way every single time without fail, that was Andrew. So Andrew built up a lot of trust. He also built it up by, when we needed to start asking for money or funding for something, not a single time did we request funding and not deliver the results we promised from that. And that was Andrew, for sure. So we built up trust. So when it came time to do that auditorium remodel, we had a big voice in that, and they let us, speak into how it needed to be remodeled. I remember being, I would have been 28 or 29 at the time. I'm in my office at Church on the Move. We knew this was starting to come, but the plan was for that auditorium remodel to be like the last stage. Well, Pastor George realized that the congregation needed to see results to continue the giving campaign. They wanted to go, oh, this stuff's happening.
Sure.
Well, a lot of the other things were maintenance things behind the scenes. So they moved it up in the timeline. Andrew walks in my office, says, grab any notes you have from what we've talked about with the auditorium remodel. We have a meeting in 30 minutes. I don't remember what day of the week. I was wearing shorts, a t-shirt. I was very much a technician at that time too. And so I go walk into this meeting in the main room next to the auditorium. The whole full pastoral team is there. The full team from the architectural company is there. I don't remember who all else. The CFO was there. And here comes me and Andrew walking in, and I've got random notes with me. And they're talking about things that have nothing to do with us. And then, it's funny. Pastor George always wore glasses. And when he was serious, he'd look over the top of the glasses at you. So he looks across the table. He goes, all right, Andrew, what about your part? Andrew goes, Daniel? I'm like, oh, crap. So I can't draw to save my life. That's why I got good at doing CAD work. I start trying to explain some of the things we want to do. And Pastor George goes, I'm having trouble picturing that. Draw it out on the whiteboard for me. So I'm in this get up in front of this room of just all these high-level people wearing suits and stuff. And I'm like, okay, kind of draw it out. And I turn back, and he's doing the eyeglass thing, looking at me that way. And he goes, sounds good. And then moves on to the next topic. And I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But we presented a concept that was really, I don't want to say unheard of, but very unusual for the church world at the time. We didn't want any sheetrock stuff above the stage. I wanted exposed beams. We need to be able to rig things. And that was part of what I had to pitch in that meeting was, he goes, well, what's going to be up there? What's the sheetrock facade going to look like? And I said, well, sir, we shouldn't have one. And he goes, well, what do you mean? We're just going to see everything up there. I said, no, with every design we will do, I will design in that coverage for that. But if you put sheetrock up there,
yeah, I'm stuck.
You're taking it away from me.
Yep.
I need the flexibility. And that was what made him go, oh, okay. We said we need a stage that we can both drive a full articulating boom lift out onto, but we can also still access underneath. We need a loading dock. We need backstage space. And we explained all this out to them, and they went, okay, great. And so in 2010-ish, I think, we got to do that remodel. So all of that kinetic energy, that potential energy that we've been building up the past 3 years of we have all these cool things we want to do, but we can't really do them because the way we're bound, suddenly got unleashed.
It's a slingshot.
Yep. And that was some of the early days of Hillsong being really big. Whit looked at that stuff a lot. If you look back at that time, you can absolutely see the influence. At that point in my career, I hated copying other people. I thought it was wrong. I feel a little different about it now. There has been a few times where I have directly copied people. I do my best to give credit when I do. I think part of creativity is you're going to get an idea from somewhere else.
For sure. I always say, I copy stuff from all over the place, but I always try to innovate in my own personal flair. So we'll get into design in a minute, but I'll take 3 or 4 ideas and blend them into one and then make my own twist on it. Yeah. So
you're either getting influenced by other people or you're 100%. Lying.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the two. So we did some of that and started trying to figure out what our style was. And then from that, we kind of, I feel like, birthed what became sort of the Church on the Move style. You talked about those little lighting fixtures earlier. Where that came from is Whit wanted that very dark, very saturated color Hillsong look that was popular at the time. But Andrew would go, Whit, we need to see this on video. Like, we had old cameras at the time, some Panasonic something, I don't know. And he's like, we can't even shoot these shots. There's just nothing there. And so we went back and forth for a little while about it. And he asked me, and I said, my last tour with Switchfoot, we didn't really do a lot of video, but I had these little 4-cell blinders on the sides of the stage that when we were playing clubs and stuff and I didn't have good key light, that's how I lit the band.
Yeah.
What was cool about it is it was side light, so it wasn't this boring video style key light from the front. It really showed off the 3D nature of the band, just made the form look better, made the stage, gave more depth to the stage because we were lighting up all the different layers. I said, it looked really good. And he goes, well, do that. And I said, it's not going to work. Whit hates those type of lights, little 4-cell blinders. He wants things that don't look like lighting fixtures. He said, well, is there not one that just has the little single light in it? I said, no, it doesn't exist. And he was like, can we make it? And it took probably a month of trial and error. We started out by trying to use a PVC pipe reducer to hold the light. It's a 650 watt lamp that gets really hot.
Yeah,
you can imagine how that went. Yeah. Melted those, and those were called Dewey lights. Well, the bulb, it's called a DWE. So everybody always thinks that's why they're called Dewey lights. We can't figure out how to make this work. We can't figure out a good housing for it to hold it. So we went over to talk to the church's construction team and said, hey, we need something like this that, or something that'll hold this light in it that we can use for the housing of a fixture that's made out of metal. And the lead construction guys are going, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. No idea. Well, there was this really old guy that worked at the church. He was 80-something years old. He reminded me of old Yosemite Sam.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
Because deep Oklahoma guy. And from behind everybody, like we didn't even know he was there. He just goes, what you need is a stovepipe reducer. And we went, what? And he goes, yeah, a stovepipe reducer. And we, okay, where do we get those? In Home Depot. That guy's name was Dewey. So that's why they're called Dewey lights.
How fun.
But yeah, we ended up making those, and what they were, it was a wide flood. It was a very soft light. It was a very warm light, which worked very good for what we were doing at the time. And we just started positioning those strategically around band members. And we did it specifically with camera shots in mind. So like over here, this camera's shooting me right now. I would not put the light in front of me on this side. If I wanted a good shot from here, I'm kind of getting more of a silhouette or letting it wrap around the face a little bit. We would map out lighting positions for those fixtures like down to inches based on camera shots. I mean, we'd have rehearsals where all we did was look at a camera shot based on what those lights were doing. One of my favorite things we ever did there, and I'll shut up after this for a second. You get me talking about these, I get excited.
I love it.
There was a song, golly, not Fire and Wine. Oh man, I want to go back and figure out who this was. But we had there's a married couple.
It might be Fire and Wine. We did that at CCD too.
Yeah, we did that.
And
is that what it's called? Band? Is that the band or the name of the song?
That's what I'm wrestling with.
It was really deep song.
Yes.
Yeah. Male and female.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
We put them on opposite sides of the stage facing each other.
I remember this because you guys revealed it. You did it again at Seeds.
Yes. The only lighting was each of them had one Dewey light providing silhouette. And then from as far back as I could get in the auditorium, I took a 10-degree Lico. Or no, those were 5-degree Licos. So super tight beam. And you just saw it shooting from, like you couldn't tell where it's coming from. It's just this beam coming through everything that just hit the people. 4 lights total. Probably the best looking thing I've ever done in my career.
What's crazy, I mean, you talk about those moments and the best looking thing. One of the most memorable moments I remember at Seeds was when house lights were on and you guys started worship.
Yeah.
Like it was just raw emotion.
Jordan Weston.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. We got to support him. He's a solo artist now.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram.
Released his EP and we got to support him with that. And because of moments like that, getting to be a part of that with Jordan when he was a kid then.
Yeah.
But were you in the room for that, or were you
I was in the room.
Okay.
No, I was in the room.
What a powerful moment.
That's what I'm saying. It was one of the most amazing moments, and it was the tech. I mean, it was zero tech.
You know what we copied that from?
No.
U2 concert. They started with the house lights on.
It's him thing.
So
I've copied it. Like most things you guys did, I copied it. We did a CCV worship night, and we ended. So it was a full high production worship night or worship album release, and we ended with just a really emotional worship song with just house lights on like that, and it was super powerful.
So good.
Yeah.
That is, we weren't. This isn't the topic we're on, but it may lead us down to you. And that is one of the things I've become so frustrated with in our market. And that's one of the things I think that Church on the Move and Seeds did so well is, man, production is such an amazing tool for what we do, but it has to fit the content perfectly.
Yep.
It has to match. You can't force in something else. And, that was the secret sauce there. And it came from a centralized vision. It wasn't that I did what I wanted to do and Andy did what he wanted to do and all that. We all did what Whit wanted to do. And then we added our own personal expertise into that. But that's what made it all fit together well. Part of the reason I started DC Pro was because when I left working at the church full time and started going out and working with other groups, that wasn't there.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy what I was doing anymore.
Yep. All right. Yeah, that's a good transition. You just mentioned DC Pro. So Daniel, obviously now operator of DC Pro. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of the transition from where our careers met and then where our careers are now, which is pretty awesome. So I was at CCV. Daniel's at Church on the Move. We became friends. Obviously, I was mirroring what he was doing. When you work in big churches, you just kind of naturally become friends with the other big church production guys. You all have something in common. You're all looking at what the other guy's doing, critiquing it, stealing ideas, you name it. Especially back in those days, there was a lot of us kind of in that circle. Andrew Stone, I did some speaking engagements with him. He was amazing, obviously.
There also wasn't as many of us back then.
There wasn't as many, exactly. Yeah, there was 5 big churches. We all knew each other back in those days. So we all became friends. A lot of Twitter, us, Lee Fields, you name the guys. We were all part of that same circle. I stayed at CCV. One of the biggest events, which I've talked about on the podcast, one of my favorite events I've done was CCV Easter at the stadium, where we went into Cardinal Stadium here in Arizona. Arizona Cardinal Stadium holds about 70,000. We did an Easter service for 55,000. Knisley was with me on that one too. It was just us, some church production dudes. I thankfully had a career in corporate production before I went into ministry. So I knew what I was doing when it came to, I'd never produced an event at that scale. So the first thing I did, because we didn't have a huge budget, is I reached out to anybody I knew in the industry. And my first thing, obviously, at that point was reach out to top production guys in the church industry that I knew. I reached out to a friend of ours, Nick Rivero, who's an amazing video guy, one of the best in the industry, in my opinion. And he's like, hey, I'll come help you. He came out and helped me. Robert Scoville came out and helped me. Amazing audio engineer that everybody knows their name. And then Nick's like, hey, just a heads up, Daniel Connell is leaving Church on the Move and he's looking for freelance gigs. And I was like, well, I know Daniel well. He's amazing. I would love to get him on this gig. Gave you a call and you're like, hey, bro, this. I think it ended up being your first, we'll call it freelance gig as DC Pro, right?
Well,
or as just as Daniel?
Just as Daniel. I was still an employee at the church then, but because that was Easter. My last day at Church on the Move was, I think, May 10th of 2015.
Okay.
So we did Easter 2015.
Yep.
But you asked, and I went to Andrew. I was like, hey, you already know I'm leaving. I got asked to do this. I really want to. And he said, yeah, as long as you can make sure our Easter is good to go, which at that point, I think it was that year, the year before, Church on the Move decided we didn't want our Easter events to be production heavy. It just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
We backed some of that away. So I did some pre-programming and then left it with I had, I think, 1 or 2 other guys in the lighting department at that time and left it with one of them to run and it went great. And I got to come hang out with you.
It was pretty awesome, yeah.
I think that was the first show that I worked with you on.
Yeah, had to be.
And Brad talked you up. He's like, dude, this is the world-class designer. He's
what a disappointment, huh?
Come as an LD. And I was like, I can't wait to meet him. And I remember I was just there as an A2 and I was like, oh, I'm going to go talk to this guy. And you were like in the console doing things. I was like, oh, he's busy. I don't want to piss him off. And I was like, I can't wait to see the light show he puts on. And then I realized our event was during the day with a translucent roof. And I was like, why didn't we do a night service?
yeah.
It looked so. We did rehearsals the night
was so
before.
bummed. I mean,
Rehearsals looked amazing.
It still was awesome, but I was like, it would have been even better at night.
I don't think you and I have ever talked about this, but yeah, my experience with that one, like I really appreciated being invited. I loved getting to be a part of the show. I was almost embarrassed because at that point, like what people knew me for at that point in my career was what we did at Church on the Move.
Yeah, of course.
You know, pre-Church on the Move, I didn't do lighting that way. Like what you see as my style was made at Church on the Move. I was a good lighting designer before, but I wouldn't say I had a style. I just kind of did it the way we did it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there and this is my first freelance gig. I'm gonna really bring what I do and rock it. And then I'm like,
the roof is see-through.
I can't even remember if we ran haze or not. I feel like we had some just to try and catch some beams.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, the rehearsals the night before looked beautiful. It looked awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is gonna look great. And I remember like peeking my head around the stage from backstage, and I was like, you can't really see any lighting.
This is the thing.
Well, it's also, speaking of lighting, they weren't, although they do it now, they weren't letting us rig, remember? So you had to use
all ground
supported spot ops
everything.
For front wash. It was
PA, everything was ground supported.
It was wild.
We wrapped the stage decks in Pixel Flex LED.
Yeah, I tried to do anything. It was low-res pixel.
Very low-res pixel.
But I tried to do anything because I knew it was going to be daylight. So, like, we need something you can see visually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we used some BIs, anything we could, like you could physically see some texture and some eye candy.
We used a bunch of Q-Picks, which were those, I think that's what they were called, the 4x4 boxes.
Yep.
And, here's an interesting one. I think this is correct. Yeah, it would be. So for a lot of the events we do with you guys now, your LD, uses software called Madrix.
Yeah, of course.
Which, if you look at it, it looks like DJ lighting software because it started as DJ lighting software. But what it is, it's a great low-res like video content software. It allows you to, for everybody out there that's never used it, traditional media server, you're playing back a video. And with Resolume and some of the modern ones, you can manipulate that video a lot. But back in this day, back in the old days, 2015, we didn't have that ability. So if you were going to recolor a video, you were just laying color on top of it. Mm-hmm. You didn't have a lot of tools in the software to manipulate the video. What Madrix did, it didn't play back videos you already had. You could, but it created the content on the fly for you. Like there was just some generic elements, and then you could manipulate those generic elements and change the density, the speed, the colors, all of that. And so when you're using a really low-res surface, like we made walls out of those Q-Picks.
Yeah, I remember.
And but a pixel is like that. So I was able to just pick and make content based on whatever was right for the song versus trying to thumb through tons of videos looking for something that fit. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember why I was on that. I remember about that one, what brought that out, used that. I cannot remember who the lighting company was, but they could not get their network figured out. And it finally came down to the lighting guy was trying to use all these VLANs and stuff to map things correctly, and he was blaming it on my software. And I used to carry around a little 5-port switch in my bag just in case I needed a network switch. Because this was still relatively early in the days of us using a lot of networking. We're probably 5 years into a lot of networking in the industry at this point. Well, we're going around for 2 or 3 hours. I'm getting frustrated. I'm thinking, this is like my first big show out. I've got to have this look good. Nothing's working. I can't program. You were starting to ask me for some things, and we knew each other, but I didn't have enough relationship yet to start. Yeah. So finally, he was like, I don't know, I got to figure this out. I'm going to go outside and make some calls. I don't even think you ever heard this. I walked back into the stage, unplugged his network switch, plugged mine in, and went back to the console. Everything worked great. And he walks back in, he's like, oh, it's working now. I went, yeah, your switch is on your work box.
Nice.
Yeah. But if you were looking at me and my head was buried and I didn't look approachable,
that's probably why.
That was it.
Yeah. That's probably why. Yeah, it turned out amazing. So that was kind of the second revival of our relationship. Obviously, we knew each other. And then, so I left ministry, CCV, in 2016, started MOSAIC. Started as a freelancer, just trying to hustle and get jobs. And obviously the moment that you started DC Pro. So I guess on your end of that, what was the transition? That was kind of the first gig. What led from Daniel to DC Pro to actually the organization DC Pro? My
entire plan at that point was just to be a freelance designer again.
It was.
Yeah. I was going back to my old career was my plan. I loved my time at Church on the Move. Left for not because of any issues, strictly because I kind of done what I'd gone there to do, I felt released, and gave him a 5-month notice so we could transition well. in the meeting where I gave Andrew my notice, he also hired me as a consultant. So I quit and I got hired all in one meeting. And I went out and for about 3 years, just floated around trying to figure out what did this look like. During that time, got to do a lot of really fun events. Did several of the Bethel Heaven Come conferences. Did the Church of the Highlands Motion Conference, which they actually just did that last week, I think, for this year. Did some Passion Conference stuff. Still stayed, for the most part, heavily focused on working in the church market because I really felt like that's where my passion was, and that's what I want to do, and that's where my giftings excelled. This is one a lot of people don't know about. Did about 6 months as Sam Hunt's production manager.
Oh, I remember that.
During that time.
I remember that.
You told me that.
He went down that road. In fact, that was probably the tail end of this. And again, I was like, I gotta, what am I doing now? I gotta figure out something. The opportunity came up. I stepped into it. Took me about 6 months to realize that is not an opportunity I should have stepped into. Great dude. Seriously, if anybody's a fan, he's actually a great guy.
Yeah.
His team, great people. It's just not what I was supposed to be doing at all. And after that, I'm gonna be honest, I was probably at a major low point. That didn't work out. The events I was going to do, even for like the Bethels, the Church of the Highlands, all the other people, they were good, but I felt my personal output like degrading.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't getting better. It almost felt like I was getting worse. Thought about it, prayed about it, tried to figure it out. And what I realized is the success we had at Church on the Move was because I had a team. And you would do an event, and then when you did the next event, you didn't start over. You built on the wins from the last one. You had capital gains from the previous work you'd done. So every time we got a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better. And when you're out jumping between different jobs, different groups, different teams, you don't get to build that. And that's what I suddenly felt missing. Also, man, I was approaching 40. Not like that's old, but I really started to have that feeling of I want something bigger than me. I want a team again. I had been doing lighting for 25 years at that point. Still a lot I could have learned. Still a lot of my craft I could have honed, but I was kind of getting over it.
At this point, you've done touring, you've done church, you've done one-offs and corporate events.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, what's next? I've kind of done it all, checked all the boxes.
And again, I could have kept learning, but it wasn't exciting to anymore. And that's also part of what scared me is I started suddenly feeling like I didn't care as much. And that was a major red flag. Yep. And so talked to my wife and just kind of, I think I want to like build something bigger than me. And I was getting hired by a lot of integration companies at the time to come in and do the design work on their projects. And after a little while of doing that, I got to looking at it and I went, okay, well, I was making a day rate. So maybe I was making $5-10 grand out of doing this, and I can do the math. They're making a lot just by passing gear around. And I got to peek behind the curtain enough to go, and I don't like the way they're doing it. Not every single one, that hired me.
Sure.
But a lot of them going, there's a better way to do this. Some of them would hire me in and go, hey, yeah, we want you to design the lighting for this church project for us. I'm like, yeah, great, I'd love to. When do I get to talk to the client? Oh, no, you're not going to talk to the client. Okay, well, are there certain brands you want to stay focused on? Oh, we already picked out the gear package.
So who's
why am I here?
It? Yeah.
They wanted my name. They wanted me to come sprinkle some sauce on it, like make what they started with look good.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And a lot of those experiences is where I went, I can do this better. And so 2018, just started poking around at it. And I have no background in sales, no background in business development. But I toured and worked at a church. And if you're going to do both of those things, you know how to just make things happen.
Yeah.
So it took, it would have been early 2018. We were still living, my wife and I had moved back to Huntsville, Alabama with our kids, where I'm originally from, to be around my dad, and so they get to know my kids. And I'm getting the story. I haven't thought about this in so long, I'm getting it right in my head here. We had been living in Huntsville for not quite 3 years, like 2.5 years. And we tried a few different churches there, and they were good churches, but none of them felt like home. And her and I, it was wearing on us. We were talking about that. Our church home had been such an important thing through we met the year I started working at Church on the Move. That was just part of our life. Yeah. And at the time, we'd also bought a house in Huntsville that was pretty much my dream house. I'm very into like the mid-century modern vibe in that. It was a 1960s mid-century modern house built onto the side of this, mountain in Huntsville, overlooking the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, beautiful view, like a full acre lot, completely wooded, like amazing. We'd been living there about 9 months. And we sat down and had this conversation about church. And what we arrived at is we felt like God was calling us back to Tulsa, back to our home church. And we made that decision that night and put the house on the market the next day. And I remember after we had made that decision, and it was, I don't know if this is this way with you and your wife, your guys' wives, but we'll have like a tense, deep conversation about something like that. And then when it's done, you just kind of, you're like, okay, well, and you start thinking through the residual from that. And I had been trying to get something going as a company. And I went, with what I'm trying to do as a company, it might be good that we're moving back to Tulsa because I'm going to be back around more of my people that have the shared culture.
Sure.
Because I couldn't find people to come in and help me that I felt like were going to help push whatever this business was I was trying to create in the direction I wanted to go. And understatement of my lifetime. So we moved back to Tulsa in September of 2018. I leased a 1,000 square foot warehouse. I hired Brian Landry in part-time. So Brian had taken over my old job at Church on the Move as LD. He would work there 6 days a week and come work with me the 7th day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you know Brian, that's not surprising.
His Sabbath was the DC Pro.
Yeah. He was. Yeah. And we just started doing stuff. And I think an important thing for people to hear about that time, this was probably one of the most challenging parts for me. I'd had a pretty good career as a touring LD. I'd had a really good career as a church LD. And I had to throw all pride out the window and go, hey, you want to buy some lights from me?
Literally, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Bro, I just told the story. I was at CIY tours. Like, been there, done that. I was, high on the ladder, pretty in both corporate and church. And then just when you start your own thing, I mean, you're starting from nothing.
So we're just poking around, figuring stuff out. It was so cool listening to your episode with Nick again. I feel like I've said this a few times, but even hearing him talk about when you're trying to two-step gear and the margin issues and all that, I was doing the same thing. I had so many connections in the industry. I would buy or rent here and then resell to here. But I wanted to be competitive. I wanted to provide good deals, and the margins are so slim at that point that it just wasn't making sense. And I'm still looking at other people going, you guys are making the money here and you shouldn't be, So I just jumped into it with both feet, and 2019 started getting dealerships set up. Started actually trying to build something out, started researching and learning what all I needed to do right. And in January of 2020, hired my first full-time employee.
Yeah.
And at that point,
you were scared.
I was scared. I was really scared 2 months later when March 2020 hit.
When the world shut down.
Yeah. So at that point, the plan, my background, what I know well is doing the events, the live event side. So I was like, we're going to be a rental company, we're going to be an event company, and we'll do some integration. And then in March 2020, we went, boop. Yeah. No, we do integration.
Because that was the time to do it.
That was it.
Churches were spending money.
Well, it was, it wasn't even that. It was that was all we had.
Yeah.
And we had done enough. We're like, well, let's just lean into that. Yes, churches were spending money. Also, some of the things they were doing the most of is they went, we used to have 5,000 people on the weekend and 500 people watching online.
And that flip-flopped.
That swapped. And we realized our online looks like crap.
Yeah.
And we've got good cameras. We think it's the lighting. Can you help? And I went, I've done a little bit of this.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
We also had a local church.
Yeah, which is wild. I mean, now you look at this full circle, this story you just told, like this goes right back to what you were describing at Church on the Move and how much intentionality you spent on the broadcast lighting look. And now 10 years later, it's what's going to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for a couple of years it did. We had a local church that had also blown up kind of right before COVID and had no production team and suddenly was like doing these major things. So DC Pro, the 5 or 6 of us that was there at the time, stepped in and became that church's production team as well. And a lot of what they were doing through COVID, we don't really work with them that much anymore, but I'm super thankful for that time there because we would absolutely not be where we're at today. I've always hated saying it this way. So many of my friends in the industry suffered through COVID. No, we thrived.
Yeah.
We boomed. And the coolest part about it for me was when I was able to hire in friends who, like one of my best friends was lighting crew chief on Luke Bryan. His whole crew was just dead. So I flew him out to Tulsa and had him help with some install stuff we were doing there. And that was super cool. But yeah, back on the kind of DC Pro thing. So we just started building from there. So people always ask me, when did DC Pro start? DC Pro is a DBA, doing business as name. Our legal company is Daniel Connell Productions, LLC. that was formed in September of 2012 when I was still working at the church because my wife and I found out we were having our second son, and I was not making enough money at the church to support a family of 4. And I went, okay, well, I'm going to start a side business. And it took us 3 months. I went out and bought 12 Color Blast 12s. Probably nobody, I'm sure y'all have no idea what that is.
Nope.
Some of the first good LED fixtures that were out there. It took us 3 months to agree to spend $12,000 on that because that's where we were at the time. So what happened, we took $6,000 out of savings. And then you guys know my passion is shooting, sports and stuff like that.
Oh, you told me about this.
I sold 3 or 4 guns to get the other $6,000.
Heartbreak.
Yeah. It was funny when I told her at the time when I did that, I said, hey, if we ever get this, if this business we're starting ever does well, I'm buying this back.
Yep.
Yeah, I've made up for that.
I was going to say, you better have.
Oh, yeah. Technically, yeah, that's what became DC Pro. But for me, DC Pro started January 2020 when I hired my first full-time employee.
Yep.
For anyone who has ever had full-time employees, that's different.
Yep.
That's a
Knisley was my first full-time employee.
There you go.
I barely paid him, and he missed a lot of paychecks in that first year, but it was rough. It did feel real.
My first one was Tyler Rowland, who's now our COO at the company. Just could not do this without him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's great.
That's a stud.
So down that path, obviously we've kind of made those connections. I started MOSAIC. Knisley joined quickly after. We were just freelancing, trying to do our thing. We went 2 different routes. Obviously, we're talking about it, and I talked with Nick. Like I went the producer route, you went the production company route, both integration and live events. One of my passions and why I wanted to be the producer is I love, and even more so now than ever before, I love that I get to do stuff, but also bring in my friends to support me in doing them. So as a producer, I get to support other small businesses. I get to support other contractors. I get to support technicians. I can have a small staff because I know I can rely on other companies to support us in what we do, which leads us to today. I mean, you guys have become such a major partner to us at MOSAIC. Because of we don't own a single piece of gear. I advertise that we're producers. We don't own any gear. We're a very technical company, but we don't own any gear because we have amazing partners like you guys at DC Pro. So yeah, talk to me about that on the going the other route. Like I went left, you went right. What was the passion? Obviously it made sense because you were doing church production, so it made sense to start doing the live or the church integration. What on the live event side? Where did that start? What was the first client on the live event side that kind of led you to where we are today? Every major event that MOSAIC does, DC Pro is a key to that major event. So, but where did that start on the live event side?
Well, and we love being a part of that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too. But there's some. I guess there's some mission approach to this, and also some practical. I chose to get into the gear side of it because I knew it. I grew up working for that company, Theatrical Lighting Systems. At one point, I was helping run the rental department. I understood how all that worked. And because I wanted a team again, and I needed to fund having a team in some way, I'm like, yeah, we'll rent gear. First one that we bought our first gear package in 2019. And, again, listening to your and Nick's podcast, talking about the different parts of the company, we say we have 3. We have sales and integration. And the sales and integration part can cover a box sale. You want to buy 1 light from me. You want to buy 12 lights. We sell it to them like you're buying from Amazon. Then we have the integration part where you actually we want to partner with you, come in, design it, install it, and do all that. We also have our rentals department, which it could be like a Sunbelt rental, United rental, whatever. It's dry hire rental. You want a lighting console and nothing else to go with it, you can come rent that from us. 12 lighting fixtures, no problem. That's what we're set up for. Then we have our events department, and that's what Brian runs at the company, and that's what we partner with you guys on. And we treat that as a completely separate part of the company now. I'll tell you, an issue we're dealing with this week is that we've had too much blending between the rentals and the events department. So I've made them separate even more. I think Devin, which you know and love
Devin.
Pretty sure he's probably mad at me today because the prep for Pastors Conference coming up here, I've made it more challenging for my team, not because I wanted to, but because there's a few internal issues. I'm like, guys, this has to be fixed, and we're gonna do this the right way, and we're gonna start it right now. So I'm forcing them into some different processes. Reason I'm sharing all that. So really, our event side didn't start out early. We wanted to do it, and then the pandemic hit. So we bought gear first to do rentals with. there's something that we did at Church on the Move that I understood because I helped build it was long-term rentals for churches.
Oh yeah.
We could do a whole podcast on just that. I'll say quick, it's not for everybody. It's not the right solution for every church. It's got pros and cons. You need to understand those before you get into it. I love talking about this. So if anybody listening ever just wants to understand long-term rentals with churches, call me. I don't care if you rent stuff from us or not. I'm happy to share that information to help you make wise decisions for your church. But I understood it, and I had been on the customer side of it for over 10 years at that point. Even when I left Church on the Move, I still handled all of that for them. I still negotiated the contracts with the rental companies because Church on the Move was a very rental-heavy church, and that was built that way on purpose. That's what they wanted. And I say they. Yeah, when I was there, I wanted it too, but so did the CFO, so did the creative department. So it was a team approach. And then when I started looking at building my own rental company, I started looking at those arrangements going, we're not getting as good a deal as we should. And Andrew, was still, for anybody listening that doesn't know, Andrew passed away 6 years ago. He hadn't, he's still with us at this time. And I was about to negotiate a new contract with a rental company for Church on the Move. And I just got to looking at it, and I called him and said, hey man, no is a completely appropriate answer here. And I felt very awkward even asking. I said, I'm looking at this, and I understand the math behind this because I worked at a rental company. I understand this from the church side, and we're getting good deals. I don't think we're getting great deals. And I'm just looking at it, and I've started my company. I can operate with very low overhead. I can go out and buy you brand new lights for this next rental package. So everything's coming in cardboard, out of the box, never been on tour, pristine. And I can save you like 25% from what you're paying now. And if you don't want, but if you feel like that's blending things too much, I completely understand. He goes, no, do it. So I went out and got a $350,000 loan. And my mortgage, my house was the collateral for me. And that is how we started. I didn't have money. I had gone from making church pay, which you'll never hear me complain about what Church on the Move paid me. It was, financially it was low. It was half what I'd made in the touring market before I went to go work at the church. Don't care. I got more out of that place than I could ever repay. So my first rental project was taking over Church on the Move's long-term rental contract.
Which you guys still do, right?
We still do to this day. And that was a wonderful cash injection early on. That's how we really funded starting the rest of the company. Was I had a guaranteed cash flow every month from that rental. And it was small, but there was a period of time where it covered our whole payroll.
Well, that goes back to you saying your decision to go there and work there from Touring World.
Absolutely.
Literally, you wouldn't be the same person.
No.
DC Pro wouldn't be.
Yeah, that domino effect.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But we started with that, and we did a couple little shows through 2019 with some gear that wasn't out on rentals, or in sub-renting stuff in from other people. But then the pandemic hit, and we just shut all of that down. And when we went so heavy into integration that when things started opening back up, we didn't rush back into live production. I'm not, not trying to say I'm this, make this sound like I'm this, big-hearted person, but I looked at a lot of the other production companies that have been suffering, and we hadn't been suffering. I went, we need to let them go catch up first. Why step in and take jobs that could go to other companies that have barely been getting by the past 2 or 3 years?
Right.
So we just kind of eased back into that part. We had long-term rentals with a lot of other churches at that point too. Through the pandemic, we did a lot of that because suddenly they went, we need a different space. We need a different thing. We have to build a studio now. And we supported a lot of that. We probably didn't get, it was about the time that you and I reconnected.
And even when I connected with you, we had an honest conversation, and you've always been honest. I reached out to you and I was like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it. Obviously, I trust you. You're a close friend. I want to pull DC Pro in. And you're like, hey, I don't know if we're there yet, but how can I help?
Yeah.
And obviously from, I don't even remember what the first show was.
No, I do.
You guys, what was it?
Yeah,
it was AmFest. We came in with labor only because part of that conversation was I said, my team is ready.
Yep.
Our inventory isn't.
Yep.
We had a really good package started, but it was missing a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be upfront about that.
Which was awesome. And it was, for me, everything we do is built on relationships. And for me, it was like, okay, I appreciate the honesty. I'm not expecting you to be the lighting vendor that you are now for us, but let's get you in the door and let's figure out how we can partner. And yeah, obviously it was a success, and I think it helped you guys understand where we were coming from. It helped us understand where you were coming from. And then obviously we've built, that was what, what was that first Damn Fest? 2019, 2020?
No, it was
21.
later than that. Was it? It might have been after that. I want to say it was 22.
It might have been.
Well,
Well, I think the growth that we've had together since that moment on your event side, on our event side, it's pretty cool to
been great.
even watch that side of things happen.
It has been awesome. And again, I feel like there's a plan at place here. And there's dots that connect. You guys probably won't tell the story. I don't mind. The first event we did with you guys, that M-Fest, where we brought in labor only. One of the things I love about you guys is you always plan a party to celebrate everybody at these big events. I forget what the game's called, but people call out other people at that.
Yeah, we were just doing toast. We had a big thing every time we did it, like a team dinner.
Yep.
It started randomly with somebody toasting. It started as like MOSAIC toast. It was on another big show we do, but there was probably like 18 of us, and somebody started a toast. Hey, I just want to toast MOSAIC, and I want to toast Brad, because that was kind of the central thing. And it got to the point where they were toasting us more than they were toasting anything else. So the toast continued at other events, but I was like, hey, why don't, as opposed to just toasting me or Knisley or MOSAIC, like find somebody in the room where you can toast them. Yeah, that's kind of what it led to.
A shout out.
A little shout out, yeah.
So Will, your LD, toasted me, and because I didn't realize he had followed me through the church and stuff, and I'd had some influence on some of the stuff he did, and it was so honoring. But also, take this all the way back to what I was talking about in 2016, 2017, where, in a lot of ways, post-Church on the Move, I felt homeless.
Yeah.
And so at that toast, when I got up, I forget who I toasted, but as part of it, I thanked you guys, and I started crying like a baby, because I went,
standard.
Here's the home again. And I'm around people who share the same culture again. I'm around people that have the passion for the details and the excellence. Yep. And that is where our two teams have bonded so much. One of the things I'm most proud of with DC Pro is, I still don't see us as a massive company. I love Nick so much. And when I heard him say he's got 75,000
square feet.
My gosh, I get ulcers just thinking about that.
I mean,
I'm sure he does too.
Yeah, he probably does too.
We've got 20,000 square feet. We just moved into it last October from literally the first place we started with that first 1,000 square feet. We just kept taking over more and more of it, to where when we left last year, we'd gotten up to, I think, 16,000 square feet, and then moved into 20, which we've outgrown, and it's not even a year in yet, but that's a whole different story. So in a lot of ways, we're still a small company, but man, my team, I will put them up against anybody any day.
I'm the same way, yeah.
Not just what they can do, but the way they do it. Yep. They have a servant's heart. I don't have to crack the whip on them. They just want to do it with excellence.
Yep.
And I mean, one of the challenges now is, how do you scale that? That's the world I'm in this year. Is core team's amazing. Whole team is amazing, but we've got. It's funny. I actually did a count on all this in the past week or two, and I'm trying to see if I can remember all of it exactly. We've got 26 employees now. I think 27th starts in 2 weeks. We'll have 30 before the year's over. Of that, I think we have 14 spouses and 24 children out of that group. I'm almost worried about where I think my team will get to in the next year or two. My biggest issue right now is trying to control growth. And that sounds like a humble brag. It's not. It's kind of a nightmare at times. I love it. I'm here for it. It's what I do now. But how do you grow steadily?
Yep.
It was neat to hear Nick talk through how that's happened for them, because there's so many correlations. But you and I actually talked about this before the podcast. Love the dude. A major difference is he's doing it at the beginning of his career. I'm doing it at the end of mine.
Yeah, he's a young buck.
Yeah, and so one of the pieces of pressure I feel is I don't have a massive amount of time. I don't plan on sticking in this forever. I want to enjoy retirement with my wife. Y'all have met her. She's beautiful. I want to spend as much time with her as I can. And I want to take advantage of all the opportunities we're getting. And I feel like it's my responsibility to accept and bring in that growth, but stewarding it well where we don't lose our culture in the process.
I mean, that's critical. That's why I've talked to people all the time about, they tell me, you guys have been doing so good in 8 years. What's it look like? Are you going to keep on taking more clients and more crew? And I'm totally fine with slow growth. We've been slow growth from the beginning, slow to hire, like you name it, slow growth. And I think that's what's kept our culture intact and what's made us who we are from a culture standpoint, is that slow growth. Because it's easy to start saying yes and start hiring random people and, be quick to quick to purchase, quick to hire, and the first thing that's hardest thing to hold on to is that culture when you get to that level.
And I don't think you can slack, no matter the growth pace. You can't slack on the people that you hire, because, like you said, Amfest, like, granted, we trusted you, but the reason that relationship grew is because you brought labor in only, and your people crushed it and put a good, name or brand on your name, and we're like, these guys are great, so we would trust them with anything. So then once you were like, hey, we have the gear, we're like, you can get gear from anywhere.
Yeah.
And everyone has gear, but it's the people, and that's why we invest heavily in people and slow pickings to pick the correct people. So I think it's the same thing. Like, no matter the growth size, you just can't lack on I'm just gonna hire a body. Like, it's got to be good people.
We can't do that, and that's I'm actually a big fan of tension. I think a lot of people try and run away from it and escape it. I mean, to me, tension is where the magic happens. And the tension for us right now is exactly what we're talking about. How fast do we grow? How much more do we grow? We for the first 5 years of the company, we just let it rip, and it was great. But even now, we've had to go back and hit some steps we skipped along the way. A bunch of production guys in a warehouse together, we just, ran with it. Well, I've got 26 employees now. I don't have an HR director. My, Lori, who does our purchasing for us, who's freaking amazing, also does HR on the side.
We don't have one, but slowly, because I make a bunch of inappropriate jokes and do inappropriate things because my wife works here. So yeah, I would get fired first if we had an HR director, because the jokes and the booty slaps would not be appropriate at all.
I have no idea what you're talking about, which we probably are too late in this podcast, but another topic we ought to hit is I loved hearing you and Nick talk about working with your wives, and
it's a different dynamic. Yeah,
I'm the other side of that equation.
Yeah, most people are. Working with your spouse would be very, very tough. And we talked about there's challenges, obviously, but it is nice to walk past and smack your wife on the booty at work and not get in trouble.
I just do that with Tyler or Brian.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. That's what I do that with the audio bubs.
There you go. No, I mean, Cassie was actually involved a little bit in the early days of the company, and I'll share the quick anecdote on kind of how she separated from that. As the company started growing, she started doing less and less. And but she's an owner, so I would still discuss things with her until I didn't. And what happens, I get home from work one day, and this is that first year, and we're growing fast. And we were having to start to rent box trucks all the time. And this is in the pandemic, so everything was out.
Yeah.
So finding stuff. So suddenly a box truck pops up available from a guy I'd been talking to, $65,000. Things were doing good at the time. We actually had the cash to do that with, so I went out and bought a box truck. I get home from work that day, talking through the day with her, and she's asking me, she always likes to know how the day went, and I try and hit the high points with her. And almost as an afterthought, I went, oh yeah, we bought a box truck today. And she goes, what? And I went, yeah, we bought a box truck. And I had to kind of explain to her what that was. She goes, oh, okay, so did you get how much did that cost? So it was $65,000. She goes, oh, did you get a loan for it? And I'm starting to be able to hear where we're going in her voice. And I'm like, no, we paid cash for it. And at this point, the heat is starting to dial up. And she goes, you spent $65,000 without talking to me? And here's the reality. For probably 6 months, I've been doing a lot without talking to her, but it was because we just had to. There wasn't time. And things were growing. It was heading in the good direction. And I went, oh, okay. Very valid point. Let's talk for a minute. And we sat down and I said, honey, I get what you're saying, and you're right. And we've gotten so busy that I kind of blew past all this. But the deal her and I made, I think it was before we even got married. We were engaged, and she goes, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh, yeah, great. She goes, I need you to know my passion is to be a mom and a wife. I don't want to work. And I said, great. I love what I do. I'm good at it. You let me take care of that. You take care of the home. It's going to work great. And it always has. So we sat down and talked about the box truck, and I said, understand, valid point. I said, but I think we need a new arrangement here. And the company's growing fast, and I have to make decisions quickly. And big decisions aren't islands into themselves. Big decisions are the result of a lot of small decisions that you have to make along the way. And if I came to you and said we need to buy a box truck that costs $65,000, you wouldn't understand it because you're not involved in these little decisions. So either I need you to trust me that I've got a gift for this, whatever talent, I can do it, I'm making good decisions, or I need you at the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. that's the choices. She went, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
And that's been the case ever since.
That was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
That makes sense.
Yep. It doesn't work for everybody. So yeah, let's wrap it up with, where you've obviously been partnering since when that, whatever it was, 2021, 22. It started with just labor, obviously has led to full-fledged. You guys are our full support lighting vendor, plus some at this point. I mean, even small, medium shows, audio, video, you name it. You guys have kind of become just an amazing partner to us. So we're super thankful for that. And
we love it, man.
Just watching the journey from those early days on the Church on the Move and just being a fan. And yeah, it's cool to look back in these moments and just see the path that God's brought us on and
Absolutely.
where we are then and where we are now. So yeah, we're looking forward to even more. It's been cool to this podcast. There's some people on the horizon that are coming. Eddie from Concept Pixels, Lee Fields,
Panda.
Yeah, just some guys that have been around the industry that I've known for a while. That'll be cool to have these same conversations. Nick, that you've mentioned a few times, like just to be friends with other owners and to be able to support other owners and other companies. It's been rewarding to me to be able to do that, and just have a trusted partner like you as along the journey that has led to our success. So yeah, just thankful for you. Thankful you've been a part of this podcast. It's been a fun, I don't even know how long we've talked here. It went by quick. So yeah, it's been fun. So, and first in-studio interview. Thanks for flying to Phoenix and being a part of the in-studio interview. Just thankful for you, man. Thankful for our partnership, our friendship, and just a part of my life for all these years. So it's been cool.
Dude, the same. I mean, anybody who tries to act like the growth of their company isn't great because of the financial benefit you and your family get from that is an absolute liar. But what I tell my team a lot is, the finances of what we do is a very important part, because without that, the rest isn't going to work. But I refuse to separate the mission and the passion from that, because I've been down that road and I don't like it. Mm-hmm. And so much of that is done by partnering with like-minded people, the shared vision and a shared goal. And those are very hard to find. Yep. And we don't have anybody that matches us anywhere close to what you guys do. It is always an honor for all that. Love getting to be on the podcast. So thanks for having me out.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
You too.
Awesome. Man. Well, stay tuned. I mentioned a couple names coming up. We've got Eddie from Concept Pixels, Lee Fields, many names that if you're in this industry, just like I said, industry leaders talking industry stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun over the next few weeks. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, you name it. We're trying to drop episodes every Wednesday. Keep it fun, lighthearted, but just talk about the industry. And if you love the industry, this is a place to do it. So thanks again, Daniel. We'll talk soon. Enjoyed having you out, man.
Love being here.